Hey there everyone, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome and thanks for joining me today. In today's video, we're going to talk about what I commonly call the secret to blues playing. And what I mean by that is this is a move, there's a little bit of a story behind this, but this is an idea that I learned many years ago. And it has to do with mixing the major blues scale and the minor blues scale. So the first thing is, if you don't already know how to play a minor blues scale, you need to get that taken care of. And if you don't already know how to play a major blues scale, you need to know how to do that. I have videos for both of those things floating around, so I'm not going to completely get into that again, but I want to show you how to mix and match them. So the story is that one of the first bands I ever got in was a blues band way back, almost 30 years ago now. And when I joined the band, I had to learn a whole bunch of tunes right off the bat. And that was fine. I had a pretty good ear. I could figure them out. But when it came to the solos, they were fine with me playing whatever I wanted. I didn't have to learn the solos off the record, which was good because that would have taken forever. And I only had about a week to learn like 50 songs for the first gig. So I tried making up my own, and man, it was awful. I sounded horrible, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I remembered a lesson I had seen a few years prior. I had actually gone to a clinic, an all-day clinic with a guy from Musicians Institute, and I've long since forgotten who he was. But I still had the handouts from that session, and I remembered he had said something about major and minor, and anyway, so I went and I found the handouts and I looked through it, and I said, oh, okay, you use the major blues or the major pentatonic over the 1 chord and use the minor blues and the minor pentatonic over the 4 and the 5 chord. And I thought, okay, well, that's kind of odd. It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the theory of it here in a minute. But sure enough, when I tried it and actually applied it, it sounds great. It worked amazing. And more importantly was I found myself stumbling upon the sounds that were actually on the recordings. Like I was clearly thinking like they were thinking, because I was sort of automatically going to the exact same licks that they were already playing. So I could tell that this was something important. And of course, as I got older and I got to be a more advanced player and more accomplished, I learned that this is a huge part of playing the blues. And everybody from B.B. King, Lonnie Johnson, even way back in the 30s and 40s on, uses this. So it's a very important concept. So let's discuss it briefly. Now, I'm going to use, for the purposes of our discussion, the key of A, and the way I'm going to choose to play the major blues sound is starting with box 2 here at this A. Is that the only way to play the A major blues sound? Absolutely not, but it is what I'm using for the purposes of our discussion. I'm going to choose for my minor blues sound to also start on this route, but play box 1. So once I've figured out, in general, what fretboard region I want to be in, and how to play the minor sound in that position, and how to play the major sound in that position, once I've figured those couple of things out, I'm good to go, theoretically, okay? Because again, the rule is very simple. When you're listening, and when the blues is going by, right, when the 1 chord's happening, which is the first 4 bars, unless it's a quick change, it's the first 4 bars, then the second 2 bars are the 4 chord, the next 2 bars are back to the 1 chord. Then you have 5-4-1-5, typically. Okay, there's obviously changes and different modifications that happen, but that's the most common thing, right? So when the 1 chord is happening, we want to play the major blues sound. Okay, so that's the good old box 2. When the 4 and the 5 happen, I'm going to play box 1. Now, can you play the minor sound over the 1? Of course, because that's sort of our basic entry into blues soloing. That's like blues soloing 101. We play the minor blues sound over everything. So you can always go back to the minor blues sound if you get lost. This is adding in the major blues sound over the 1 chord. Can you play the major blues sound over the 4 and 5? Not so much. You kind of can over the 5. It's unusual, but you can do it. if you do it over the 4, and here's my theory alert, but if you play the major blues sound over the 4, you're going to play a C sharp. And there's a C in the 4 chord. That's going to really clash. Okay? So you can play every other note, but you cannot play that C sharp. You cannot play that major 3rd over the 4 chord because it has a minor 7th. Over the 5 chord, the E, you can theoretically play it. There's no compelling reason not to, at least from a theoretical standpoint. What I find, though, is that it just simply doesn't sound as bluesy to me when I do that. I prefer the sound of the minor pentatonic over the 5 chord. You can obviously choose for yourself. But the general rule here is major over the 1 chord, minor over the 4 and 5. You can certainly experiment with the alternatives. I always encourage that. But I'm telling you what I hear and what I transcribe most out there in the world. Okay? So, let's say I got a little jam track with the blues. So here's my 1 chord. Here's my 4 chord, so minor. Back to the 1 chord, so major. 5, so minor. 4, still minor. Major for the 1, minor for the 5. 1, so major. So minor. Major for the 1. Minor for 5. And 4. And then back to 1 for major. Minor. Major. And as you can hear, I could go, I could do that. I can kind of noodle that all day long. You can just, this is a matter of getting the sounds under your fingers. Don't worry about playing cool licks. Don't worry about any of that stuff. You're just trying to get the approach, get the concept down. Okay? You'll notice that in general, I stick to the top 4 strings. I don't like to solo in the basement very much. Okay, of course, I could play this in other places. We spend hours on this sort of stuff, I could play the major here. And the minor, right? There's all kinds of different ways to do this. For the purposes of our discussion, I wanted to keep it straightforward and simple, so I chose the 6th string root. That's where most people are comfortable with. It's the same as the 1st string root. Okay, so again, it's where most folks are comfortable. So play around with it. Play a little jam track or go find one that only has 1, 4, and 5. Keep it simple, okay? And just try going through the sounds. Make sure you have the sounds down, right? If you can't play a major blues scale, you're not going to be able to play it when the time comes. If you can't play a minor blues scale, you're not going to be able to have it when the time comes. So obviously you have to have those 2 sounds down first. But once you do, try switching between them as the blues goes by and just kind of start to get a feel for the sound. It's a really cool sound, and as you get more comfortable playing it, when you hear it, you'll recognize it more. So it's a win-win all the way around. All right, so play with that. Again, if you have friends that would dig this video, please feel free to share it with them. And I am Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. I will see you soon. Take care.